One thing I, as an Israeli, noticed when looking at the Arab and Muslim world is an almost complete conformity in the public space when discussing the controversial topics of Islamic fundamentalism and Israel. Even with countries that have peace agreements with Israel, like Egypt, Jordan, and now the new countries that joined in the Abraham Accords, the Gulf states, you will very rarely see someone speak out in a different way than what the mob wants. That's why, when you do have such a unique character, it is very worthwhile to listen. And this man here, Amjad Taha, is an Emirati who is very outspoken. Let's hear what he has to say.
My name is Stefan Thompson. I'm the founder of VisaGrad24, and I'm here in the United Arab Emirates in Abu Dhabi. And today I'm with Amjad Taha, an Emirati geopolitical expert and a great advocate of peace. Amjad.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Fantastic to be here with you.
Great to see you finally.
Finally. Amjad, let's start with the differences between Islam here in the United Arab Emirates and the Islam that we see on our TV screens, the Islam of radicalism that we see everywhere.
When you say on our TVs, I believe the West is what you mean. And on the West, what we see also, we are very shocked most of the time. You see radical Islamists from Brotherhood who are former terrorists or terrorists themselves, but in the West, they have been named as activists. Those who run away from justice in their own country, and those who committed a crime have been involved in various heinous acts such as rape and beheading and so on. All of those individuals right now, they live in the West as teachers, as lecturers, as doctors, and as protesters, as protesters who protest to glorify the Muslim Brotherhood, the armed forces at least of the Muslim Brotherhood, as we see after the 7th of October, by that time in Hamas. They glorify terrorism and all form of terrorism, and they do not respect the rules and the regulation of the countries that they say they went there and they had a refugee status there. And as they get the citizenship, they start recruiting the citizens of the West to become hostages of the Islamist propaganda all the way in the Middle East, which their parents ran away from them and they went to the West and they became a citizen. However, this new generation of theirs, they start becoming the recruiters of those Islamists in the Middle East, and they're right now at a stage of making more lone wolves. And we saw that lone wolves policy of ISIS. A lot of those extremists who some were European went all the way and became members of ISIS in Iraq and Syria. They actually were members of the Green Lane Mosque, for example, or in Birmingham in UK, in Small Heath, or in Sheffield, or in West Sydney in Australia, or in Canada. So they were part of that civilized culture and that civilization, great civilization in the West. However, because of the scholars that Britain, Canada, or Australia, or any other country, ignoring or ignorance of the fact that this scholar is recruiting and is not speaking about religion, is actually using the space and the place in the West and the freedom of speech to make these children or these students or these people in the West to become the hostage of the Islamist, and then later on to become the soldier that kills his own neighbor.
This is what's crazy, and that a lot of people have noticed, is that the biggest radicals, the recruiters, the jihadists, are currently in Western countries. They're in Britain, they're in France, they're in Germany. They're not in Saudi Arabia, they're not in UAE, they're in Europe, and it's crazy.
I saw a really shocking statistic speaking about Westerners who joined ISIS. More British citizens traveled to the Islamic State to fight in its ranks than joined the British Armed Forces.
Yeah, the numbers are huge. We're speaking about more than 7,000, I think, some of the Western who at least hold a European passport.
Why do you think Islamism is finding such fertile soil in Europe?
Two things. Well, various things, to be honest, not the two things. But the first thing is the fact that there is they abuse the freedom of speech. So what they do,
Mm,
they use the freedom of speech to justify anti-Semitism, for example, and they turn the anti-Semitism to become an opinion rather than a crime.
sure.
So that space of freedom, but the fact that Europeans or the West need to understand these Islamists right now, they know the error. They know this problem that you're having. Yes, it's not, the problem is not with the freedom of speech. The problem is that there is an evil inside your society now, is becoming a member of your society, using that policy of freedom of speech to abuse it and to destroy your society, to destroy your universities. At one point, universities such as Harvard University, Oxford University, and those prestigious universities, people in the East and the West, they want to become a member of, or they want to study or teach there. Right now, when I remember Harvard University, I remember protests where Jewish students get persecuted, be swore at, be insulted. It's a place, as much as I see from the images recently, for riots, for people insulting each other, for teachers get attacked or having a different perspective or opinion, people fighting, people with masks covering their faces with flags of terrorists, Hamas, Hezbollah, and all this. So they turn the place of education and knowledge to a war zone. When that happens, your civilization is either going down or it's breaking, and it's breaking under your observation. You're allowing it to happen. You can put rules and regulation, deport those Islamists. Do not let them harm your children. Do not let them harm your society, your community. Do not let them be the people who wake up on the 8th of October, for example, and tell you to boycott challah, attack a Jewish restaurant just for being a Jew, and they justify it and they allow it. Don't be. This is your country. This is your civilization.
You pointed out deportations, which I obviously couldn't agree more with. However, one of the structural problems that we have in Europe, certainly Western Europe, all the data that I have seen points to the fact that second and third generation migrants are much more likely to be radicals than first generation migrants, which means that if we're talking about France, many of the migrants are obviously from the Maghreb region, Tunisia, Algeria, Morocco. In the UK, many come from Pakistan, Somalia. The second and third generation is more likely to be radicalized, and they are already citizens. Now, how do you deal with a radicalized second or third generation migrant that you cannot deport because he is a citizen of your country?
Yeah, with those you change the rules and the regulation when it comes to radicalization. For example, one great example of this is the fact that why did they become radical?
I would say there's many reasons.
One of which is they do have their own. They start separating themselves from the rest of the country and the rest of the community. One, two, they start having those schools, what we call the jihadist school of Saturday, Sunday, so on weekend. Now, why did the government allow those scholars to be the scholars of those mosques? If the scholar does not support coexistence, peace, prosperity, and tolerance, it should not be that teacher of that new generation.
This is the issue of integrated migrants versus parallel community migrants, which is crucial and which is what's been talked about by the people who are against mass migration. Because the way it's happening now, where it's in the large numbers, too large numbers, and they're creating their own parallel communities, don't integrate into the local culture, which is just a bad thing in a cultural sense, and also have the exposure to the extremism.
Because what that student goes, or that person when he attends the mosque, is going there for the knowledge, for spirituality, and so on. Now, when you have the scholar himself is the evil, the result of that is the conduct of evil, which the individual himself will carry and do. The change for that is the educational system. So there need to be first look into those mosques, look into the societies, bring them more to close to each other. That they need to have a lot of activities together and so on. And also, why is it the fact that a person that lives in Dubai, a Muslim person from the same background of the person that lives in France or in UK, third, fourth generation here, they're still open mind, they're still Muslim, they're still conservative, yet they're not radical. They're not supporters or glorifiers of terrorists. But a person who is a Muslim living all the way in France or Britain is more radicalized and is more there is more likely that he's going to become a member of the ISIS or a Muslim Brotherhood terrorist organization. Is the fact that the West, up to this point, the media is justifying the existence of, for example, Islamic Relief as a charity organization in UK or in the West. Why? It's not a charity organization. It's a foundation or an organization that steals the money from the West, the pockets of the people who are willing to help. Yet it takes that money and it gives it to organizations, terrorist organizations in the Middle East, under the name of a school and hospitals. But those schools are run by actual Islamist terrorists who fund and support even Hamas. You cannot be Muslim more than me. You will not be more Arab than I. So why is it that I banned the Muslim Brotherhood and you haven't? Why is it the fact that Islamic Relief is banned in UAE and is banned in Mecca, but is allowed in Paris and in London? So there is a lot of questions to be asked.
Yeah, I think there's many more questions that we will explore in a follow-up to this. This has been a very good warm-up session.
Thank you.
For an upcoming series of videos with Amjad. Amjad, thank you so much.
Crazy. It's something that I've said so many times, that you have these the Muslim Brotherhood affiliated groups, preachers, organizations, call it whatever you want, who support terror, that are banned in all of the Middle Eastern Arab Muslim countries and thrive in London, Paris, and Berlin. It's crazy. As Amjad said, we in the UAE, we banned the Muslim Brotherhood. Saudi Arabia banned the Muslim Brotherhood. Egypt banned the Muslim Brotherhood. Now Jordan outlawed the party of the Muslim Brotherhood recently in their own country. These are Muslim Arab countries that have banned these organizations that are promoting and funneling and abetting terror, and they find their thriving ground, their breeding grounds in the UK, in London. And that's something that just has to stop. Amjad Taha, you should really follow what he does. He's very active on Twitter and other places. One of this small group of outspoken people in the Gulf, in maybe Morocco and in some of the other countries that are willing to speak out on those issues, also more supportive of Israel. And this is at least one thing that happens with social media, is that people have the ability to express more of that opinion, but it's still extremely rare to see that in the Arab and Muslim world. That's all, you guys. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, Insightful Nomad, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.